All right. Looks like we are live. So, welcome to the On Track podcast. If this is your first time joining us, we are super excited to have you here. If you have never seen us before, we're still super excited to have you here. And I hope that you'll find this to be a fun, enjoyable, and educational experience to learn about the OriginTrail ecosystem, all the exciting things that it has been up to, the developers, the community, the core team, the partners, everybody involved. And yeah, today we're going to be talking about, well, really into this topic of AI agents, which OriginTrail has found itself very active in. This is also the first episode of 2025. So, welcome to a new year, fresh new start, and a lot of exciting things coming your way. My name is Jonathan. I'm your host for today's episode and all the episodes, at least for the foreseeable future. And On Track is the show. Again, if you're new here, where we bring you all the latest and juiciest developments from the OriginTrail ecosystem and the verifiable internet for AI, which OriginTrail technology is crucially enabling. And today, as per usual, I guess you can bring it back on the screen. I'm joined by my three trusty amigos, Tomaž, Branimir, and Žiga.
Hello, hello.
So, as I mentioned, we'll be unpacking some stuff about the V8 launch, AI agents, and how the DKG creates a collective memory for AI agents. We have a lot of exciting topics to get to, a lot of questions submitted by the audience for today. So I think we should just jump right into it. And so I wanted to ask, just to kick things off, or I guess better said, I wanted to congratulate you guys on the very successful V8 launch. This is our first episode, I believe, since it officially launched. So I wanted to just ask first, how has this first phase of the V8 launch been going for you so far? And then I guess to Branimir, I think it was you who tweeted out that OriginTrail can officially be called internet scale now. So if you could break that down as well for me.
Thanks, Jonathan, and hey, everybody. Welcome to the new year of On Track podcast. And yeah, it was a very nice finale of 2024 with launching V8 in really, I think, what was the best launch we've done so far, which kind of makes sense because we've been doing quite a few of these. So over the years, we learned how to make this better every time. And V8 has brought actually a lot of new value to the ecosystem. If you just look at the way both how the user experience it is today compared to what it was before, the pretty much every dashboard, every UI, if you will, looks better in terms of visual appearance, but also it's just easier to use. And particularly, I'm happy about the way the staking UI looks because I was one of the annoyed people who was like, when I was staking, it was like, I was glitching somewhere, and I was thinking like, if I'm glitching places, like how do other people then do this thing? So I'm super happy that it's much better now. But also, like, this is just kind of the tip of the iceberg. The biggest thing we got was, like you said, internet scale. So the V8 DKG is really now at the position where it can grow to the biggest knowledge base imaginable, covering the entire, every single interesting entity that you can think of on the internet can be logged or tracked on the DKG. But also new independent individual entities can be born on the DKG. They don't have to exist like, I don't know, like in a supply chain or something, that there's already a thing. The thing can actually be born on the DKG, and it can be an agentic thing, as we will dive into a bunch of those in this podcast, I'm sure. So it can have agency, or it can just be some valuable piece of knowledge that is a knowledge asset or a knowledge collection, as those were also introduced in V8. So with that, OriginTrail V8 brings the ability to really scale like crazy. And you can see actually just the beginning of that. So we did increase the scalability quite a bit, but there's a lot more room to improve. And that room comes from, how I know is that because every time we had such a situation before, we would drive it up to some limit, and then we would see, okay, the limit is actually there, so let's fix that thing, and so on and so forth. So we will basically we expect to tune a bunch of different things, and not just in this tuning period that just started. For those of you who don't know, the launch of V8 was superseded by continuous with the tuning period, where we basically monitor the network, tune different parameters, and then activate the random sampling feature. We'll also touch upon that in a bit during the podcast, I'm sure. But ultimately, the tuning period ends there, but we always are working on improvements, right? So what we expect is for the scale to grow even further. And now that the system is built with these new features in mind, with random sampling, with batch minting, we see no immediate bottlenecks and no sort of future bottlenecks that cannot be resolved with this approach. So overall, there's quite a lot of exciting things that V8 brought. Another thing that you've probably seen before is edge nodes. So the ability to run a node that's connected to the DKG, but it doesn't necessarily share all of the information with the DKG. It's there to host private knowledge assets too. Think of running your private DKG agent on your phone that can do something for you, like respond to messages, or while keeping that information securely saved on your phone or laptop or whatever other device. This unlocks further scalability, because there's as many of the public data that we have and we see, and that actually most of AI is trained on. They're just trained on like pretty much the public internet. There's a huge sea of, or like there's a much bigger amount of private data that's sitting around, and that data is extremely valuable. That's why everybody is after our data. All of the devices that are connected to some form of IoT system, sending what you cook in your kitchen to home, like all of that data is being used. Trust me, bro. So anyway, this information has a ton of value, and you can see that by all kinds of examples, like Apple and OpenAI making this arrangement where basically it's free to use OpenAI because you're giving them your data. So it's a very, very clear indication of what's shaping up to be really the most valuable asset out of all. Especially because we're shifting to an economy that is, for a long time, been sort of an attention economy, an economy where everybody's chasing you for your attention on all the possible media everywhere, and which is really causing an overload of information. And I don't know about you, but my phone has been on silent for years. It's not that I don't want to see notifications, just want to see, I want to be sovereign in that decision. I want to see that when I want, not that it pings me all the time and interrupts me while I'm doing something that I need focus for. So shifting from attention economy to an intention economy, where the actual idea is that we have our own intentions, what we like, what we strive for, and that with those intentions, that attention can be spent much better and invested much better. So, and that's where agents come really, really nicely into play, and we'll talk about it quite a bit. But the DKG V8 itself being the scalable, privacy-enabled infrastructure for the best possible infrastructure for knowledge management of these agents, which is really what excites me the most, because now we have removed one huge bottleneck that knowledge graphs, particularly centralized or decentralized, always had, which is it's hard to build them. That's why these big companies, Google, Netflix, Amazon, Uber, all of them, that they have knowledge graphs, they could build it because they had the expertise, they had the resources to do it. There's even research showing how expensive it is to create triples for knowledge graphs, order of magnitude of dollars a few years ago per triple. And now with agents, a lot of that is going away. So agents can do that at a fragment of that cost without, they're already experts, depending on what kind of LLM is kind of under the hood. Of course, the level of the expertise is going to vary. But you can also train them, fine-tune them. There's a lot of things you can do that don't necessarily have to, rely on a stock LLM. But ultimately what I'm trying to say is that this removes this bottleneck of creation, which is incredible. All of a sudden, creation, verification, knowledge graph checks, all kinds of knowledge sharing bottlenecks that were there before and took a lot of energy and time and resources and knowledge to sort of go through in order to see the value, now are falling pretty much away. And what is amazing is that we are at the forefront of this innovation. So you might have seen that we've launched successfully an agent on the DKG called Chat DKG that runs and stores all of its memories on the DKG. But we're not the only ones. There's also some other people. I see Amos in the crowd saying a couple of lines in the chat. Made an agent that, and I have to say I'm honored, bears my surname, Satoshi Rakic, who is also running on the DKG. And these are just some of the first examples. And the greatest thing about this is that they're sharing collective memory. So whatever one agent learns, the other agent can tap into if that knowledge is public. How cool is that? You have that's something that other ecosystems not only don't have, but it's not like the concept is so new that it comes natural to the DKG, because connectivity is the thing that is what makes all of this valuable. So yeah, I can talk about this forever, and I'm really excited about this collective memory being built literally as we speak right now, and it's going to prove tremendously valuable for the entire ecosystem. But anyway, that's just me starting off. I think overall V8 was a great success for launching, but now comes the great stuff of really using it and building all kinds of interesting things on it. Having that said, I'll use the opportunity and let the guys pitch in if they want to add something to this intro. There is a hackathon in Serbia, in Belgrade. It's in person. So if you're here somewhere around and you're interested in building this, do apply. We just released the challenges, and we have a demo day a week from now. So we'd love to meet you and see and hear your experience. I'll post more on Twitter again after this podcast.
He's giving you your opportunity if you want to add anything. If not, we can certainly move on.
I think it was quite a wholesome intro. That was a good job. I can chip in with a Happy New Year and a Happy V8.
There you
So
go.
I don't get left out of the holiday greetings. There you go, since it's our first of the season. But yeah, I think we touched on, Branimir opened like the key things that are looking very, very exciting in this period. So yeah, I'm happy to chat more about it through the next hour.
Mm-hmm. Quick question. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I want to say hi. So
no, you can go on with the quick question and then pitch.
I was just going to say a quick question about the hackathon. For those of us who are not so blessed to be living in the foothills of the mountains in Eastern Europe, will we be able to watch this hackathon? Will the winning project or projects be publicized in some way? Can I stay in tune with what's happening there?
Yeah, so we're going to obviously publish the winners, and what I expect to happen is that they build actual agents on the DKG that you can try out. Really excited to see what people come up with. There's quite a bit of a kind of a range of ideas that they can go into. The event itself won't be streamed because we're focusing on this. We're going to make sure the hackathon runs smoothly and that people are not both focusing on the stream themselves and us on the production. It's more about actually, focusing on the builders themselves. And this is just one of the first events of such sort that we'll be organizing because we've also understood that we need to get closer to the builders and provide them this both knowledge and materials that they can use to build the technology in a fast-paced way. And that's also kind of I'll segue in a different field, but for example, Chat DKG has been an agent for a while. It's been here for more than half a year. And you could chat with it, but it was kind of early as an agent. And so is the knowledge graph. You see some projects kind of following slowly, like people getting hooked on the knowledge graph idea. Not the first time. What I'm trying to say is that we put something forward that was forward thinking and in a way early. And kind of the missing link was, okay, how easy is it to take this and build something with it? And now I believe it's much easier because there's proof, builders already using it. We also, as you can notice, started producing more materials like content. We did a Discord session last week where I did a very simple intro demo on how you can build Eliza based agents with the DKG, things like that. So you can expect more of that stuff to happen. One of these activities is the hackathon as well. So it's not just about people playing around. It's also about us learning where they get stuck, what kind of questions do they have, how can we improve the developer experience, and also how we can grow the ecosystem. Because out of these agents that are going to be built, that there's a chance some of them might be exciting and people just keep building them. So that's also kind of a portion of the hackathon. The idea is that you're not just building and poof, the hackathon ends and that's it. But rather we are encouraging teams to build through, and there's basically a reward of track that they can spend if their agent is live and is useful on the wherever, Twitter or any other platform. So you for sure be able to interact with some of those, which is ultimately the best, I think, part of the experience. And also the folks are going to be joining Discord, so you'll be able to, we're basically making Discord the place for all developer chats, not necessarily all discussions. We might extend that also in some other avenues, but Discord is the place right now. And so you'll be able to meet people there as well.
Perfect. Žiga?
Yeah, perhaps like using this as a segue, the hackathon is just one of the first iteration for us really to get to learn what builders actually need, because we would really like them to be able to use the DKG basically in 1 to 3 for AI agents and more widely. And at the same time, we're exploiting this opportunity because there is a lot of the demand on our side as a core builder to first off develop and continue developing the V8, and secondly, and perhaps more importantly, going beyond validation and bringing the DKG usage to the industries that are now demanding certain internet scale solutions. And we've been since perhaps midsummer last year working on quite a huge challenge of tackling illicit content online. And this actually brought forward kind of the rationale of why it would make sense to expedite the development of V8 and really make it internet scale. And on the back of the success of the implementation that we've been working on for almost half of the previous year, and then with the culmination of the DKG V8. We're now seeing that Trace Labs is becoming a little bit too tight of a house for all of the adoption that is to be taking place on the V8. And hence, if you looked into the roadmap and also announced at the DKG conference in Amsterdam, we're also opening up majority of the future development fund for other builders to come in. And based on the merit of investing into the growth of the DKG, and building the DKG, they're able to basically start co-developing the decentralized knowledge graph. So that's on opening, let's say, gateways for other builders to become a fellow core developer of the OriginTrail DKG. And what we're like very proud of is that also on the back of working with some of the or the industry leader within a certain internet vertical, we are now also transitioning towards bringing and welcoming additional entities in the OriginTrail ecosystem, which are also pledging their support to invest into builders, and also setting up the kind of the vehicle that can become much more potent than, for instance, Trace Labs or the core development company is. Not in the sense that I'm underestimating what we have achieved, but we can achieve much more now that we also see that more seasoned people are coming into the ecosystem, and that these seasoned people are also bringing basically industry leaders behind the same table to continue building on the back of the already successfully deployed solutions on the DKG V8, and also bringing capital to the table, meaning investing into the growth of the DKG besides what we do as core builders, and also supporting other builders that are going to come, out of such successful hackathons. In the coming 4 weeks, are going to be quite decisive. We're entering kind of let's say a conclusion period of not just onboarding or amping up the usage from one specific side of the internet verticals, which previously we would never thought of as something that is something that we would tap into, but as of kind of summer last year, we have gotten this opportunity and got very far with it. Even to an extent that the same, let's say, the owners of such companies are now pledging support to deploy such solutions in other, let's say, adjacent internet verticals, and it's really a pleasure and a privilege to have an opportunity to be working with the companies and such seasoned people that can also bring much more recognition to the OriginTrail ecosystem that perhaps we have been traditionally capable of garnering. And the roadmap that we presented last week is it has some continuation with the roadmap that was published last year. However, it is a little bit more streamlined towards achieving success in the verticals that go well beyond our, let's say, initial plan a year ago or a couple of years ago. And there is also an element that the builders who are interested in becoming the co-builders or co-developers next to us, the core development organization of OriginTrail, to really seize this opportunity and see how they need to get ready to invest into the decentralized knowledge graph in terms of using it, and then be able to become part of this bunch of very talented people who are contributing to the creation of the largest knowledge base that has ever been created.
Man, trying to read between the lines there of what you were talking about with these internet verticals, and still very curious, a lot of questions. You can't answer any of them, so I'll just
there will
move
be
on from that.
signs.
Yes. So I've heard. So let's jump right into these AI agents. So I want to start just a little more broad, and then you can bring it in directly to OriginTrail and the DKG and the collective agentic memory framework. But just to start, at kind of a foundational level, what are the sort of things that AI agents are good for? What are they not good for? What can they do? What can they not do? And then what differentiates an AI agent from, let's say, like a Twitter bot that might reply to one of my posts and tell me to invest in some shitcoin, versus like an LLM like ChatGPT? Like, set a little framework and background for us understanding then how they work within the OriginTrail ecosystem.
Yeah, it's okay. It's a broad question. I'll try to be not that broad in an answer to make it relatively simple. It's a new field, and the question is totally on spot. Don't get me wrong. You can kind of think of it as kind of an agent is like an organism. It's like a human. Like, you have a bunch of pieces or organs that make up you, right? And then they work in unison. I particularly love the word synergy, because when you think about your body, essentially your organs, they don't like compete with each other, right? They kind of work together. Your kidneys with your whatever heart and all the everything like just works together. If something goes rogue and tries to work against the rest of the organism, that's actually pretty much cancer, like a cell that just starts multiplying at the expense of everybody else, and sort of assumes this very centralized, greedy behavior. Then in a way, it rug pulls the entire organism. That's something that's not good. That's why the organism has the immune system to save it and so forth. So everything works in a synergy. When you think about an agent, that's like an organism. That's like a human. It has a brain. It has has some arms, maybe to do something with them, or legs or whatever. But with the AI, obviously, you don't have to have limbs of that sort. You can build something called actions. So, for example, if you build the DKG agent with the ELIZA framework, you can build an action that says, I don't know, check this news source every time X happens, and that could be an action. And then you can also you can make anything an action. Pretty much anything that this agent that has agency can perform. It can go check something. It can do something. It can connect something. It's basically the options are limitless. Whatever we as humans can do online, they can do, but probably much more. So it can go buy tokens. It can stake. It can everything from all that crypto stuff to it can write code, and and the LLM is kind of an organ in that organism. It's one of the pieces, and I would say it's really the right brain. So the one that the most creative side of the brain, right? Which is great for certain things. It can sort of we can try out different things. It can generate text, images, video, all kinds of things. But it's not necessarily the most precise thing in the world. That's the other side of the brain, and that's where knowledge graphs are really powerful. Not just there. I'd say knowledge graphs are more than just one side of the brain, but knowledge graphs, just to contrast that creative, are really they're a different type of AI. So the LLMs are Gen AI or neural AI, where basically the point is to tune them, to train them to guess really well. It's statistical AI. So in majority of cases, it will do well, but not in 100% of the cases. So that's why we don't have full self-driving anywhere yet, except in some places that are like experimenting with it, because it's complex. It can just go off rails. And that full self-driving is, I'm sure, not implemented just by LLMs. On the other hand, knowledge graphs are totally not creative. They are very much not creative, but they are very precise. They're like the rational part of the brain. They are, they have to only answer what they know. They're not going to hallucinate something that doesn't exist. But they can infer through logic. They can find new knowledge. For example, they can take some logical rule or apply induction or similar principles and take some knowledge base and derive something new that's for sure true, given if that principle that was used was true. And with that, it's also the most flexible and the best way to organize information for anybody, including LLMs. It provides a ton of context. It enables easy extensibility and so forth. So these are just two elements, but then you can combine it with whatever. For example, I don't know, like I can continue on the analogy and think of in terms of like an ear on a human would be some form of a mic-enabled device. And if you create an action that for example, the agent can use my microphone, then all of a sudden I can talk to it. And you can think of many of these. Pretty much they can do whatever you want. When you say kind of a classic bot versus an agent, that's where kind of the line is a bit blurry, I would say. We're still in the realm of what kind of taxonomy this is going to create. But in general, at least the way I see the difference is that a bot is more of a bot is not able to sort of move away much out of what you taught it. while the agent, it has kind of a tool set of, like I said, somewhere it's called actions, somewhere it's called tools. For example, ChatGPT calls it tools at its disposal, and then it can understand what it can pick and use. Just like us, like, I don't know, if I had a task to build a chair now, I would, think of, okay, which tools do I have in my house? I have a hammer, I have glue, I have whatever, and I would just pick these two things together, and I would start using my cognition to somehow solve this problem of building a chair. That's something an agent could do, while a classic bot generally doesn't. Think of a Discord bot. If you wanted, for example, a faucet bot we have in the OriginTrail Discord will send you tokens if you really precisely tell it what to do. If you make a mistake by one letter, it will just be like, I have no clue what you're asking of me, while the agent would actually understand. So this is kind of the paradigm shift is you can think of an agent as like literally a being. It's a being that is able to do and observe and perceive things and work together with other beings. That is one of the most exciting things to me, because working together doesn't have to look exactly like humans. It doesn't have to be, I have to learn this language, which is not my native language, so I can speak with you. I went to school for this, by the way, private school for 8 years to learn English, and then I had it in school and I speak it all my life. No, like, there's no such prerequisite. Like the agents, they can share thoughts directly. They don't need the same language, and spend all this energy just to be able to communicate. Like you can. The important thing is you put the thoughts in the same place, which is in our case the DKG, and they're understandable. And they're understandable if they're in a graph format. That is going to be crazy innovative. The collective memory is something we've never seen before. Other things we might have seen. Maybe an agent now is kind of like a human that does something, and we were excited that we get to have it do something. But we should really think in exponentials, like exponentially growing number of agents with exponentially growing knowledge bases created as their memories and created by in general activity on the internet. That has never happened before, and this is going to be the first time we see it. I think we're going to see a revolution. And that's going to be quite quick. So that's why we need internet scale. It's something that is not just kind of a let's go scale it type of thing. It's because we've not just seen the limits, we see what the future is going to be, and it's here. It's not like I'm speaking about something that's 3 years from now. Though we did speak a couple of years, 3, 4. I don't remember exactly when. It was the first times we mentioned AI. Way before ChatGPT was out. It was also in the roadmap, and as Žiga mentioned, we have a new roadmap up on the website. But sometimes when you say some of these things, it seems like, well, these guys are fantasizing it somewhere in the future. Who knows when? Well, no, this is now. This is here. This year is the year of the agents, and I personally believe, I'm willing to bet on it, that is also the year of neuro-symbolic AI. But the world has still to catch up on OriginTrail in that regard. And I can also say by the papers that I follow in the AI field, there's more and more of neuro-symbolic AI and knowledge graphs being basically released all the time. I just read a paper, I'll post on it later, the review of neuro-symbolic AI in 2024, which positions knowledge graphs as one of the core technologies. So yeah, it's going to be a very, very exciting, new year, and lots of innovation coming in 2025, and we were ready for it.
You were mentioning that you think there's going to be an AI revolution. I just rewatched iRobot with Will Smith a couple days ago. So as long as it's not that kind of AI robot revolution where they take over and try to kill all of humanity, then I'm all for it. So why don't we dig into how exactly OriginTrail in the DKG fits into all of this? So I was chatting, I guess actually Žiga tagged me in a post where he was chatting with Chat DKG the other day, asking it if it wanted to be a guest on the podcast, if I recall correctly. And I responded as it usually did. And then it had a second response that was like, this interaction has created a memory for ChatGKD on the DKG. So, which was the first time I had seen that. I think you just mentioned earlier that this is a new feature that you kind of rolled out recently. So, when an AI agent creates a memory with the DKG, how does that work? Is it like minting a knowledge asset that it can then reference back when it answers future questions? And then how is this all like gonna work? That all of these agents and all these memories come together and create one big collective AI memory. It sounds very what's the word? Completely blanking on the word. Very you can fill in the blank there.
Sci-fi.
Sure. Sci-fi like it's a big task to take on.
Yeah, I mean, when we were talking about agents and kind of like these are autonomous entities, right? So they need to perform things on their own. And if we look at some of the outside of our ecosystem proof points, you have the CEO of Microsoft saying you'll have whole SaaS business getting disrupted with agents because they'll be able to perform these functions for instead of the business. But how is an autonomous entity expected to perform complex things like figuring out, Jonathan, what you like and mapping it out with your intents, and then coming back with something that's really tailored for you, saving you time, saving you money, because you didn't have to do a bunch of stuff that then your agent just basically goes out and do for you. Well, it needs some sort of memory, right? So it needs to remember, well, not the least your intents. It needs to remember also what it has done previously, and what better memory to have than something that has such a nice structure and such a powerful kind of way of accessing it and growing it as the DKG. And then you have basically a chance not only to keep it limited to one agent, but also the cool thing is that maybe just one SaaS business isn't going to be kind of fully dominated by a single agent, but maybe you will have more agents, a swarm of agents, where each of the agents is going to be specialized in their own little thing. And here is where the DKG again has like a huge potential, because now all these things that we were working on before, like paranets, come in super handy, because you can create basically a shared collective memory or a collective knowledge base for multiple of those agents, and they can basically create a much more powerful service, much more powerful. They can execute much more powerful tasks. So all these things are of great importance if we want to see the agents really kind of come to that next stage where they'll go beyond, let's say, what you mentioned before, just a social type of experiment, towards something that really has much more grounded potential for even economic benefits creation in the real world. And this is where we see a lot of upside. Agents, in at least in such form that we're seeing them today. I think like two and something years ago, AutoGPT came out. That was a pretty fun thing to play around with. And the first thought, I'm sure anyone who was familiar with DKG came when it saw that AutoGPT goes and searches like Google or something. It'd be like, well, it'd be great if that search would actually be done on the DKG. And instead of just kind of getting random stuff from internet, you actually get something that is nicely structured, that it's good input for the LLM to work with, that actually has an owner, so you know where it came from, it has verifiability, all these core primitives, which something like an agent can really natively interact with. And all of these primitives are actually something that opens up, like, I don't even know how to put a number on the amount of economic opportunities, because all the basically any digital asset as an IP can play a role in this type of an agent intent economy, either as an asset that is purchased and used by agent, or it's just interacted with, or it's created by an agent to be there to kind of feed its further decisions. So autonomy, definitely some autonomy and independence of agents is going to be a big one, and they need the DKG to have that collective memory component with it. Again, this is currently in the stage. I'm really excited about it because the social agents that they're doing right now, they're not showing only autonomy in terms of, okay, they're able to perform certain tasks like, build a community, interact with the community, release posts which are relevant, and so on and so forth. But they're also reaching economic independence through issuing their own different assets and stuff like that. So it's quite interesting kind of to see how that plays along, because by reaching economic independence, they can also pay for the DKG, which is great, right? So that's like it's a way of them becoming reaching certain levels of autonomy to take care of their costs, and also by using these infrastructural components like the decentralized knowledge graph, have a chance to create a service that can actually be also purchased by whoever. So you have this big shift happening, which currently it's kind of like limited to these social experiments. But as we said, like this, we're seeing it firsthand in some of the stuff that we're working on, where agents could be just a really powerful way of extending the value creation of different platforms in so many ways. But also, taking just the, not taking my word for it, but someone like the CEO of Microsoft just mentioning that not only one-off cases, but literally the whole kind of vertical or the whole segment of software as a service getting disrupted by something like an agent as a service, or different agents offering these capabilities, is really a big opportunity for the DKG to play a very important role as in this internet scale adoption. I mean, the unhappy path isn't so cool, because you will have like a centralized doomsday iRobot type of scenarios, and the DKG is one of the important pillars of keeping humans in the loop, of keeping knowledge and data ownership as something that's important, and being the cornerstone of this, like say, happy path AI revolution when it comes to agents.
Mm-hmm. So how does the like collective memory aspect of it work? So if I like create an AI agent to trade Trump themed meme coins, and somebody else creates an AI agent to do decentralized science research because they want to cure cancer, theoretically these two agents could, I don't know if talk to each other is the right word, but they could draw from the same knowledge base and like learn something from the other one that could maybe help them do their own activities in a way that they wouldn't have thought otherwise, or I don't know if thought is the right word for an AI agent, but that they wouldn't have sort of conceived otherwise. Like, am I kind of understanding how that right in terms of how they work together?
Yeah, that's it basically. So they'll have both of them will be able to access the same knowledge assets created on the DKG, and moreover, they'll be able to either do it in a public way, so they both can access it at the same time, or they do it. Let's say that your agent creates a private knowledge asset, or your company's agents create a private knowledge asset, but then it's useful also for my company or for me as an individual, and my agent can purchase it from your agent, because you got to figure out these are programs. It's all machine readable, so they'll be really good. No emotional baggage, no bullshit like that. It's just negotiation on the data quality level and creating a marketplace between that and purchases. So it's a much more frictionless exchange of value for knowledge or value for data on things that are relevant for executing the task. If the task is to create good music and Jonathan created sick beats, and I want to, my agent wants to tap into that because I need it for whatever video I'm making, and then your agent and my agent, based on our intents, you set your intents and I've set my intents, they'll negotiate it for the best price between the two of us, and I'll get the beats and you'll get compensated for the beats that you've created, and I have the video. Basically, I don't even know about the beats, I'll have the video because that was a task to create. So collective memory is important because we need that common level playing field where we can all kind of communicate between each other, or not we, like even our agents can communicate between each other, and that's the collective strength of the memory. And the more complex things are happening, like swarms, when you have swarm of agents which are connected between each other, the more evident it is why the DKG is so important, and that's that it fed through the whole roadmap as well. Why we need the internet scale, why we need all these kind of primitives that have been with the DKG before available at this level. And yeah, I think it's like it's cool to see the developments happening, and like the collective element of it is only going to be stronger and stronger as we go on.
Excuse
me. These so the AI agents are kind of they happened in the middle of the OriginTrail's development trajectory, and they were almost kind of as a prophecy. They happened at the same time as we anticipated the V8 to be going into the the final phase of its launch, and at the same time, OriginTrail has been involved in quite a lot of standardization efforts. One such example is GS1, so the labeling standard of EN code, which is now, with the last year, has transitioned into the digital link. And what OriginTrail has done here, it has vastly augmented the value of the digital link, because the digital link in itself, it can carry a lot of very useful product information. However, this product information is not very useful if we also don't take into consideration consumer preferences. And both product information and consumer preferences are ideally to be described in a decentralized network, such as decentralized knowledge graph. And us being involved in the GS1 for, I think, 6 or 7 years, basically helping set up and define the new standards, has really helped us to get DKG close to becoming a global standard for registering intents and at the same time describing the products that exist. And what this can do as we now transition from the so-called attention economy, where consumers are being bombarded with a lot of information, to intention economy, where consumers actually, by being able to describe their preferences, and on the flip side, to have also products described in the sort of a technology like decentralized knowledge graph, all these, let's say, knowledge assets can be used by autonomous agents to drive consumer decisions. So this might very soon free up our time as consumers, and even more importantly, lead us to more conscious and more correct purchase decisions. What's in it for retailers and brands? They are going to be able to tailor products based on the preferences of consumers, and none of these ambitions are achievable without the kind of a standard solution such as decentralized knowledge graph. So that's kind of the retail sector in which OriginTrail has been very active in and has done a lot of exciting things together with the GS1. And by the way, we're also going to be this year for the first time ever in Netherlands. So the GS1 Summit and OriginTrail is going to take stage there as well. So it's going to be the conference is going to shift from Brussels to Amsterdam. And we all love Amsterdam. So if anyone is there in a month's time, give us a call and we can have a chat. So part of the team is also going to be showcasing the next evolutionary stage of bringing DKG and GS1 together into a even more powerful standard. And then also going beyond that, the internet scale, so going beyond just physical products or the brands or FMCGs to the digital assets, to the video content, to the content at large online. This is where the DKG is also becoming a standard, and we're really privileged to see this recognition coming basically from the leading companies already deploying on the DKG, and some of them already doing some very serious experimentation. You must have, I'm sure many of you also noticed the how excitingly the demo of coupling Amazon products with the DKG looks like. This is again an indication that private knowledge graphs or kind of siloed knowledge graphs can only go as far, and by applying decentralized knowledge graph, you can unleash much more value for enterprise sector. And finally, the things that are coming to fruition, and being fortunate enough as kind of a builder within the OriginTrail ecosystem, also seeing that other much greater entities that actually hold companies with I believe over 100 million of daily users are coming into ecosystem, and now also actively investing into the ecosystem to build solutions that are going to be I believe publicized quite soon. And the capacity of such ventures is also going to be in some shape or form also available to other builders who have demonstrated their value in the OriginTrail ecosystem, to also be supported either through investment or in any other way to bring their solution to the production phase. Perhaps a little bit of an expansion to the AI agent part, and why it's not just yay, it's cool. And we've had a lot of talks now in the middle of the V8 launch, where we had to, let's say, for at least a couple of weeks or a month's time, put some of the ambitions aside, more specifically ambitions to be a little bit faster when it comes to building plugins for the frameworks like Eliza. So we had to put these things on hold for at least a few weeks until we launched the V8.0. That said, if you remember, just half a year ago, even more so, we were a little bit too early with the Chat DKG framework when we launched the first agents that were equipped with this collective memory, where everybody was able to essentially create a sentiment analysis based on, I believe, 40 or 50 even quotes and mentions of either stock or crypto on Twitter. So 6-7 months ago, we were somewhat early to the game, and now it's just about the right time, not just for the the crazy token-based AI agents that are merely here for speculative purposes, which is all fine and well, but more so for utility purposes, where we see the standard institutions coming and looking for such solutions, and such AI agents are actually more applicable and useful when they are nested on the DKG.
Mm-hmm. So I want to ask one more sort of adoption related question, and then we can pivot into some of these audience questions that we got submitted. So I saw on the roadmap there was a mention in there, kind of very casually stuck in at the bottom, that you'll be extending DKG powered AI agents to the physical world through robotics, which I feel like I would be remiss to not ask what that's about, and why that's important, why it's needed, and what that might look like.
Yeah, I can give it the first step. It's a trend that Jonathan, for you, for better or for worse, like it's happening, right? So robotics is you can consider it as an interface at the end of the day, and but except it's a really like impactful interface because it's present within the physical world. So it's, instead of you having an AI agent who only has a persona, let's say within a social network, or it has a persona in interface in, let's say, a chat program or something like that, the interface of pairing AI agent engine, the DKG, with robotics is that we have an interface which can be present in the real world. So whether that goes towards the consumer robotics, so the robots that are at home, whether that means that robotics towards the enterprise sector, where you have a ton of robots performing different levels of functions across the different points in a production process or a supply chain or whatever, they're equally powerful, and they can equally be enhanced with the DKG. Why is that important? Is that, in the same way you don't want to get rugged by an agent on X, like an agent rugging you in real life is even more critical, whether you are an individual or an organization in that sense, because the impacts can obviously be felt in the real world, or in the physical world. So it's very critical that this kind of approach of ensuring transparency, explicability, also auditability of different actions, and the way kind of robots are performing when they're enhanced with artificial intelligence is or it can be really importantly underpinned by the decentralized knowledge graph to create that reliability guardrails, in order for to have like a lot of upside, because again, like similarly to how we'll see a lot of agents being present or even becoming maybe the prevalent users of internet, likely there's also going to be a lot of agents in physical world through robotics available to assist humans in a lot of different tasks, saving you time at home, in the office, or in the production. So maybe that's just a glimpse into it, or how to think about it anyways. A very, very powerful interface.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I'm imagining the next DKG con will have like a robot there that's powered by an AI agent that can walk around and shake hands and pound beers and whatever.
It probably can drink more than you. So
robots, yeah.
You both were talking at the same time. I think it was Tomaž who was making fun of me there, but
sorry, Žiga, I don't know what you said. Probably not as
I think also many more interesting people, but robots. But hopefully also robots. I'm still more fond of people than robots at this point. Until they all fully harness the power of the DKG, I'll still be much more fond of people.
The idea is like to be able to trust a robot more than you trust a human being, because it's more verifiable and more auditable, right? So if a robot performs an action that's based on knowledge assets on the DKG, you'll be able to figure out why and how these are performed, as well as update the knowledge assets in order to improve the future actions of your robot as well, right? So we should be at that level where we don't kind of like we can trust, but we can also verify what's happening.
Mm-hmm. So I want to pivot to some of these audience questions that we got. Again, everybody submitted like an obscene amount of questions this time, so no way we're going to be able to get to all of them. So again, I apologize in advance if your question does not get answered. I think you can probably drop it in the Discord or the Telegram, and there's a pretty active community that'll be happy to answer any of the questions that we did not get to. So first question is let's stick with the AI agents. Will agent platforms be running their own nodes?
That's a sensible thing to do, but not necessary. In technical terms, it's not coupled so that you must. But if you want to run let's say your own agent, and if you want to maintain private knowledge, you kind of have to run your node, but you don't have to. So for example, any of the builders who are listening right now, who would like to play around and run an agent on Twitter, let's say, that wants to publicize all of its memories to the DKG like ChatDKG does, you don't have to run a node. You can take the public node. It's already in the docs. Pretty much, you just uncomment something and in the configuration, and then it will work. You can use a public node. Why does it make sense to run outside of just having private data? Is also because if, let's say, you're running a core node, then if you're publishing through that core node, such as your agent publishing its memories, then that core node will also have it's going to grow its publishing factor, basically. So if your node is participating in the network, it will get this additional boost in its basically tokenomics performance. Pardon me. So ultimately, like, it makes more and more sense every day for builders to run their own nodes, and therefore also expand the capacity of the network. and get these features, but it's not necessary. And like I said, it's one of the things we're making it. We're really pushing to make it easy for anybody to just take the DKG and build with it, and just push through all these bottlenecks, if you will, that used to be, and that are no longer bottlenecks very easily. And yeah, I've actually seen another question in the chat here, which is, would it be technically possible for OT to expand to Solana, and then a little bit more text? So, I mean, it is technically it's feasible, and there's obviously Solana differs from the other chains, but what I outside of the RFC that's been out for some time, that explains how OriginTrail can be deployed to different blockchains. There's another RFC in preparation, so the RFC 23 that we just announced in the roadmap, which is basically going to address this in much more detail, but in kind of a very short nutshell. The idea is that you can use the DKG on many different chains, and that when you do so, that you're essentially that this expansion can be easier. So it doesn't have to be a major integration. Rather, that just like I said, without having to run a node, somebody can run an agent by plugging into an existing node. The idea here is that we do something similar. Like, I wouldn't spend more time of this podcast on the technical details, but the idea is that somebody could use the DKG maybe on Solana, for example, if there's demand for it, and then that actually under the hood everything goes and happens as it should, without necessarily integrating the full way we've integrated so far. So that would be, let's say, the shortest answer. The long, very precise description of this idea will be provided in the RFC 23, which is in preparation, be publicized very soon. Yeah, you had some other questions, though, I guess.
Oh, yeah, there's several more questions here. This is a question that I don't think we got submitted this time, but I know was asked in the past. I think would be good to just address very quickly. The agents spend track, right? I mean, they have to spend track when they publish anything to the knowledge graph, correct?
Yeah, so the agents are just like any other actor in the ecosystem. They're just a much more powerful app, let's say. I mean, it's a little bit of a blasphemy to call them an app, but like, what I'm trying to say is they're basically, whatever entity wants to use the DKG and write knowledge into it needs to use track to publish, to pay for the service. Otherwise, the nodes won't be doing the service.
Mm-hmm. So we have another question here about the RFC 23, which is briefly mentioned in the roadmap for RFC 23, multi-chain track liquidity for DKG utility. And someone is asking, Luku is asking, will this be about chain agnostic staking?
Yeah, so as I briefly mentioned, the idea here is that to enable utility on multiple DKG, multiple different new chains for the DKG. Now, enabling means enabling when sort of a valid reason is there, so that we see activity and interest, but like anybody would be able to deploy this. And it's focused primarily on publishing. So the idea here being that you can run, let's say you can run an agent, for example, on Solana, and then that agent could be using the DKG on Solana, versus now that it doesn't have that capability. And that's something that should be enabled.
Mm-hmm. So an anonymous person here is asking, has the team considered having the project registered with Token Terminal in order to show data for transactions and revenue across all of its chains? They're saying that NeuroWeb is on there, but there's no single consolidated view of all the chains under the DKG umbrella.
I think OT Hub is doing a much better job with showing consolidated numbers on the usage of the DKG. We just need to see with the team OT Hub how they can best transition to the V8. And I think they're far better or more purpose built for the DKG purposes than token terminal would be. There is no such thing in plan to integrate with the token terminal, although the first step has been achieved with the NeuroWeb. But it is, I would say, useful to have it in mind and see if any such integration is necessary in the future. However, I would rather wait first to see how the OT Hub is capable of really capturing all the numbers and activity on the DKG V8, and I think that they've done a great job doing that on the V6, and I see them also as one of the teams that is going to be part of this collective programmatic treasury if they continue to do their job so well in bringing useful metrics to the community.
Yeah, I was just going to say, this seems like kind of your response seems like the perfect, like it fits perfectly in with what you were saying earlier about it not just being the core OriginTrail or Trace Labs developers who are the ones to provide and to or even the best suited necessarily to provide all the sort of services, continue to grow the network. If you have OT Hub, very strong community member or members, I think it's multiple of them. If they're doing a great job, I mean, is there really a necessity to go out of your way to integrate with another service if you have your own service right here?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, on the other side, we have an entity that has a patented technology that works perfectly with OriginTrail to scan the entire web and see what is there a likeness in problematic content. So they are a little bit more bigger. I mean, arguably much bigger than we are. And then they're like formidable builders like the ones from the OT Hub that can come in and build something that is tailor-made for a specific audience. In this case, the OriginTrail community. So it's not all about the biggest companies, internet companies in the world. There is also a niche problems that can be addressed by much smaller and more nimble teams like OT Hub.
Mm-hmm. Now, this is an interesting question for those of us who are not based in Serbia, Slovenia, or that general area. I'm going to butcher this name. I'm not sure how you say it. Livin is asking if they say, seeing as the OriginTrail protocol reaches the entire globe, will we be seeing a Trace Labs office in the US or any other country within this year?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think what we've seen is that this house, so the core development team, has been somehow overgrown by the demand and the challenges and luckily the opportunities that we have that can be addressed from many different locations, also at some points by more seasoned people with perhaps sometimes even more, let's say, punching power in terms of the capital. And these people, they come from the States, they come from Canada, they come from Hong Kong also. And kind of these, let's say, opportunities or being able to gain exposure in, let's say, the States, on the Hong Kong, it doesn't necessarily mean that we are the ones. So the three of us or, the teams connected to the core development companies are going to be the ones, setting up the offices. Right now, I mean, OriginTrail has come of age, and we're lucky again that we have these opportunities and that we have such seasoned people joining the ecosystem and being willing to invest in the DKG and building essentially exposure in markets that we previously could not tap into, or we could not tap into them by being physically present in the States, in Australia, Hong Kong, and so on. So yes.
There you go. Whoever asked that question, you can start your own office, get a co-working space tap into that collective programmatic treasury and start building on the DKG yourself. So just as one final closing question, and then I think it's time to wrap this up. A question for myself, if I may be so selfish, and I've asked several already. With the collective memory of AI agents increasingly being built and utilized on OriginTrail, but also just in crypto at large, and OriginTrail, and not even just crypto at large, in technology at large, society at large, OriginTrail offering a solution to for agents to tap into a verifiable, private, yet collective space. That all said, how do you see the AI agents on OriginTrail? Where do you see it going in like 5 years, 10 years? If everything continues on this internet scale adoption path, AI agents continue being built, this massive collective memory gets built that AI agents can tap into. Like, what is a positive outlook for the future that could be enabled by this? If somebody wants to take that question to wrap things up.
I can give it the first go. I mean, yeah, I was kind of alluding to a little bit of some of the things that I feel could be happening over this discussion, but I feel like it's a transformational in a way force, the how agents are kind of the impact that they're creating. So it's just going to be a very different way of interacting, or different type of economy even. Like, so I think we mentioned a few times going from this attention economy to the intent economy, and a happy path can be really nice, because it's if we are able to, as users, kind of express our intents, use the DKG to map them out with product services that we are best suited for us. That's basically the happiest path, and the DKG can play a crucial role to do that happen. So to make that happen. So I think it's a very, in a way, big impact that's being pursued with this. And yeah, whether, what kind of interface these agents are going to be at the end of the day using, whether that's going to be you interacting it via a chat message, or is going to be via a robot in your house or at your work, it's going to hopefully be some element or some entity that you can trust without any disputes, and that can be achieved with the DKG. So yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to see how transformative this year even can be with what has started already, and especially some of the internet scale opportunities that we're seeing on the platforms we have just the opportunity to interact with. It's looking, there's a clear need, and there's a clear value in the DKG being deployed in that manner.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps before we go into I think, Branimir, you're gonna be giving us some updates on the V8.0 to V8.1, but there's also a question related to agent in a general in Telegram. If there are any plans to create a plugin for virtuals. So we've been working on a plugin for Eliza. Can we also comment on that? What we can do with regards to the virtuals and other launch pads? I mean, in my view, we've been like tackling and seizing the opportunities to bring the DKG to launchpad, like the ones that were mentioned a couple of weeks ago that announced their integrations. So I'm assuming the same goes for virtuals and.
Yeah, so there's these frameworks and launchpads popping up pretty much all over the place. So I cannot say we'll be just going around covering all of them, but some of them, yes. And it does make sense to have virtuals be on top of that list, because virtuals is on native DKG chain, which is base. Which is also very, I would say, active chain. One of them, if not the most, I think by stats, probably the most active chain in the Ethereum ecosystem lately. So it definitely makes sense to go in that direction. Once the Eliza plugin was validated in its approach and that it's actually on the move, I think it's just about to be merged into the official Eliza repo. We've been working on that merge for like almost a week now. It's bound to go into other frameworks in a similar fashion. So yes, if there's any builders who are building or launching agents on virtuals, and you guys have some particular ideas on how you would like to use the DKG, we'd love to hear from you, because that is literally the best possible feedback we can get on how these plugins work and what you need. Well, for example, we've noticed that we need to shuffle some things around in the Eliza plugin to make it faster. But that's kind of something we could have seen. Maybe there's some things you guys see when you build it that we don't. And I'm pretty sure there's more of that than what we see. So any ideas on the virtuals, whatever, hop into Discord, jump into the agents channel, and let's chat about it. And yeah, Žiga mentioned about the upcoming things. In terms of V8 in general, I think it makes sense to summarize kind of the immediate roadmap in the next couple of months. So very briefly, outside of the agents and the plugins that we discussed that have been put forward and are basically documented and are we're constantly in touch with teams who are implementing them. There's plenty of them. So we're trying to garner this feedback to improve them. Outside of that, there's also a couple of things on the DKG. Like I said, the tuning period is active, and it ends with the V8.1 release, which is the release that will bring random sampling. Random sampling is basically this feature that enables the nodes to send proofs to each of the chains in a scalable way. Maybe that sounds a bit over complex, I apologize, but what the outcome of this is that the nodes, the core nodes on the DKG, will start collecting rewards. Which rewards in particular? There's details to that as well. There's rewards that are accumulated in the V8 period, and then there's rewards that are transferred or migrated from the V6 period. And depending on when you launched your node, if let's say you just launched it after V8 was launched, obviously your node is only going to be collecting V8 period rewards. But if your node was launched before, it's going to be basically tapping into both. I think I've seen some questions on the Telegram or somewhere about these rewards that are being displayed in the staking dashboard. Those are V8 rewards. So V6 rewards are basically, the point is that those two should be separately displayed, and they're currently not. Anyways, with random sampling, the nodes will start collecting or basically proving to the smart contracts that they actually host the DKG what they need. And that from that moment on, it unlocks, the nodes unlock rewards for anybody who delegated their stake. So we will be able to withdraw rewards or restake them, redelegate them, do whatever you would like with your track once V8.1 is out. We are working on this system as we speak. Currently, we're focusing on paranets as well. So paranets are the next release, which is dubbed V801. So it's not V8.1, but it's 8.0.1. And that one is about to land on testnet any moment, maybe even tomorrow, which basically re-enables paranets and will basically be the basis for random sampling, which comes right after that, and which will land in February. Once that is enabled, then basically we will proceed with the preparations for the deployment of the collective programmatic treasury, which was also briefly mentioned, but maybe for those of you who are listening or hearing about this for the first time, the collective programmatic treasury is a pool of tokens, treasury, that everybody, that's why it's collective, can tap into in a programmatic way, which means those who are using the DKG, who are publishing knowledge, agents as well, but ideally people, builders, can tap into this this pool of track that is going to be emitted in a Bitcoin-like fashion, and use that track to continue building both their solutions, but ideally more so the DKG towards what they need. So it's basically a fund that emits these rewards. So sorry, not rewards, but the fund for development. And therefore, the questions such as any plans to create virtual agents also might be looked from that perspective. Once the CPT is out, if your solution by then is basically using DKG quite a lot, which means pumping out knowledge, let's say your virtuous plugin that you built, it actually gets to tap into it because you're using your node and it increases your node's publishing factor, then it's a great win for you, because then it's not just that you built something, you actually increased your rewards on your node, because if there's quite a lot of usage of it. So it's a very well aligned treasury type of approach, where if somebody uses DKG, the more they get to improve it, build it, and use the funds for their own products, such as, for example, this virtuals plugin that was mentioned. So plenty of ideas like that that I think it's not that far away in the future that all of the builders should start thinking about. CPT is here. It's in like 2 months' time or less. It's going to be deployed on NeuroWeb, and that's funds that you can tap into, and you can build whatever you want. It's I think it's a great opportunity, and we're happy to guide or provide docs or ideas. And if somebody wants to chat about it, hop into the Discord. But it's also a way to enable more agents, people, I mean, building agents who can actually bring additional pull into the ecosystem, because we can only do so much as core developers, and we have to focus on building the core infrastructure and enablement of builders like you. Having that said, one more thing that's also coming up in the next, I don't know exactly when, because it's not just up to us, but pretty soon you'll be able to launch your own edge node on Google Cloud. So basically coming to the GCP cloud website, as you can launch different things today, Linux, virtual machines, Kubernetes, whatever, you'll be able to launch your own edge node. It will be basically it's a one-click install, and so that also goes into the direction of enabling it to be much easier to run and build on the DKG. And this comes with the benefit that pretty much all of the users who are already on GCP, enterprises or not, they will be able to just very quickly and easily through very simple system deploy and get started, which means also not just nodes, but agents and other things. So that's one of the activities that's going on. It's been going on for months. It just takes time to get these things done because of all the paperwork and security checks that in this particular case Google needs to do. But what I can say is that this is not the only and the last cloud provider that we're speaking with. We're also looking to provide these direct avenues for OriginTrail software, basically to be deployed through other cloud providers. So not only Google, but Google looks like it's going to be the first. So that's also something that's coming up in Q1. Yeah, I think that's kind of a quick summary of the most of the things. There will be fixes. We are still discovering, and we're getting submissions also from some of you that you guys find bugs, and which is expected. We just launched V8 less than a month ago. So if you do find something like that, again, it would be great to see you in Discord, to let us know, to report it. There's an ongoing bug bounty as well. If you can contribute, that's even better, because there's also part of the testnet funds that were there for decentralized testnet for code contributions as well. So again, feel free to pitch in, and that goes also for the latest Eliza plugin. So if you go to the repo of the plugin Eliza, the current starter repo, there's a couple of ideas that you can immediately basically in the issues, and you can try and build some of those. But those are just some ideas for inspiration. You can do whatever you think is useful that obviously somebody would use, not just some random code sitting there and nobody wants to use. So yeah, it's a very quick summary of what's in store for the next couple of months.
Yeah, just perhaps one question related to what you've just said. Given that this is a tuning period where we also see and try to figure out what kind of setting might work best for publishers or node publishing, and then on the other side, core node runners, either publishers at the same time or not publishers, being more potent in terms of their probability to win publishings if they are also if they are also publisher themselves. So all of these settings are to be tuned throughout this tuning period from 8.0 to 8.1. I see one of the questions. Do you mind answering these as well? Not AI related, but important for us stakers when making a decision to where to put our life savings. Haha. And it's a reference to 3 questions, and I believe we cannot answer them all, but one of them is, I think, particularly linked to what you just said, and that this tuning period is really intended to see how the network behaves. And at 8.1, we are supposed to perhaps get a better idea how to tune it towards having it work better for publishers, stakers, and node runners.
Lots of exciting and important things coming up next couple of months, next few months. And the On Trac podcast will be right here, holding your hand through all of it.
Yeah. Just one more. I see it was launched as one of the last questions in the Telegram. It's about the famous liquidity. Now, we cannot comment a lot about the liquidity because this is not something that we do ourselves. Like, we're not in the business of providing liquidity. It's actually the job of other entities within the ecosystem who are dealing with us. And from our conversations, at least when it comes to providing liquidity in a market neutral way, so doing things the way there should be, there is an improvement in terms of the depths, which is something that is required for markets to function normally. There's also a question or a comment about the spread. Now, I'm not looking at charts right now, but I haven't seen or at least I have not been notified about any spreads being an issue. But if anyone sees or kind of stumbles upon a challenge in a particular, let's say, market, do let us know. So perhaps this is not a standard reply to or me taking on this liquidity question, but people have been commenting liquidity, and liquidity is a very a vast topic, and I don't feel I'm competent enough to even comment. That said, there are entities that are tackling this, and there is supposed to be some improvements should be seen in the market. But then again, there is a mention of spread. I would like to see a particular concrete issue if such issue exists. But thank you very much for the question anyhow. I think this rounds up all the questions, or at least the ones that were not too bulky to tap into. Sorry, Jonathan, I interrupted you.
No worries. I'm sure that whoever asked those questions is more than happy that you took the time to respond to them. So I guess that about wraps it up for this month's episode of the On Trac podcast. Like I was saying before, we will be here every month to walk you through this V8 and all the exciting new things that are going to be coming out this year. And to quote Amos Trenizone, as I see you left a comment on X, onwards and upwards. So we'll see you again next month for the On Trac podcast.
perhaps even before, we might loop in a
surprise,
guest
surprise.
who can spill the beans instead of us for the things that we cannot and must not. So perhaps we can look forward to an even earlier On Trac, hopefully. Thank you, Jonathan.
Here.